Record. Okay, we are back with a brand new episode and a brand new topic, but definitely a topic that has been talked about more than enough in pop culture, in media, in our everyday conversations. But we'll try to make that topic a little fresh, maybe share some perspectives, some thoughts, some bakchodi, which might just be new to you guys. So yeah, welcome back everyone. My name's Apurva, and this is Karan. And
Hello.
on today's episode of Aaj Kya Dekhna Hai, we are going to be talking about AI in filmmaking. And we have an agenda and everything for this episode. So yeah, just it's going to be super structured and whatnot. But
Like every episode.
like every episode. But yeah, starting off with Karan, I mean, just to jump right in and then talk about what our initial thoughts are of AI
Mhm.
and whatever we've been reading, hearing, learning about it. What do you think in a nutshell? What are your sentiments on AI, especially when it comes to movies across genres and of course TV shows as well?
I personally think that a lot of the AI talk, we read a lot of marketing material essentially. And I think it's really overblown when it comes to creative outlets like filmmaking and writing. I'll just give my example. Like, I use AI for writing scripts, but I understand that, it's just helping me with the technical work. Like, if I want to format my script in a certain way, if I think of a scene and I format the script that, okay, I need this beat here, and, the scene has to end here. Of course, AI can write me a sloppy ass script without giving these inputs as well if I just give an overall idea as to what I want. But the main factor or the main input comes from me, that I, as a creative person, make a choice that this is what I want to say, this is what I want to communicate. And it's more about, I think, a lot of flab that is essentially getting cut off from the industry. Because, of course, like there are writers who were on regular commission for certain things that will not get paid anymore, but maybe that those writers will now focus on work that is more creative and original, and there can be a little bit of self actualization with respect to this new technology that has come. Like, I look at all sorts of new tech that came into movies, from sound till streaming. Everyone called doomsday that, what, cinema's over, right? Now people are just going to make maybe small films, or people are going to do something else. Everything finds its own level. At the end of the day, people still go to the theaters, people still want to consume original content, people still want to be struck by ideas. And AI will work on data, that is stuff that has already been done, but I still have to go out, touch grass, and figure out some new things to say.
But artificial intelligence today, I'm only talking today, but because you never know how it will reach and how far it will go, is dependent on data. So it can only give you what has been given before. Today, artificial intelligence, at the most, they give songs. If you give them a situation, artificial intelligence, but it will be a mediocre song. Artificial intelligence in creativity cannot do any masterpiece. That's not possible.
And that's not going to change whatever tech form of technology comes in. So while I understand that, some patchwork scenes can be done with AI, like suppose there
Yeah.
is a color artist today that was constantly employed, maybe their workload is reduced by 40%, and that can be an issue for the community. But if I look at a macro level, if I am a filmmaker and I want to get this color correction done quickly without employing anyone and not, letting the budget go overboard, then I would take that choice. And it's a private enterprise, and that's completely fine. The unionization of things probably makes us believe that things are really bad, but
Hmm.
maybe it's also a way to tell creative people that, look, be creative and don't get involved in work that is, more commission based and cyclical. And we'll be put off from those
Yeah.
cyclical demands of the industry. Like, I was thinking about, like, the summer blockbuster is essentially a project, right? That you need a release in July, a release like Baywatch. Say Dwayne Johnson's dates are not available, so we'll use his likeness and then we'll just ship the movie anyway. And for that kind of a film, there is an audience. The studio wants to make it in a certain budget and they will use this technology. But for people who want to create original stuff, I think the time is, it's still there. The opportunity is still there. That's never going to go. The medium might change, the form of communication might change, but the execution, the fact that I need to reach out to you with a unique and a very interesting idea, that's going to always be there.
Yeah. And it's very interesting what you say about like workload getting reduced, right? Ben Affleck said something about this just 10 months ago. He said how, you know, and the one thing that he said was that what AI is going to do is really reduce the barrier to entry.
Hmm.
So you have on one hand a lot of new filmmakers who either want to start off by making short movies, just put out their craft and their ideas out there. Uh, they have a strong idea, but they don't have the means, the finances, the technical resources to really build a movie in real live action or with CGI as well. They can use a couple of really strong AI tools, and now there are good tools out in the market to help them do that, where they create a completely AI generated, piece of work
Yeah.
with their idea and their story. If it has
Yeah.
merit, if it's a good, if it content is king, it'll do well. And that kind of low barrier to entry will introduce more filmmakers into the industry.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
there. It's almost like a new medium of telling a good story. What we are
Yeah.
seeing is a lot of AI slop. What we are seeing is a lot of like it's a lousy use of AI. I mean, it's like अगर तुम Baywatch को IMAX release दे रहे हो instead of like an Oppenheimer or a Dune, right?
Hmm.
Uh, you have to use it for what it's worth.
Yeah.
The other thing I also found very interesting was, and there's a guy in Singapore. He was telling us about this today. Is a lot of the CGI work, any kind of animation work. If let's say it took X amount of days, now with certain AI tools, it's going to take one third of that almost. So whatever you're rendering, like there used to be almost weeks that you had to spend on just like one scene. Now it's almost down to days, if not just of a few hours,
Yeah.
like a couple of days, and you're good.
Yeah.
Which makes things super interesting because either A, you end up taking a lot more projects if you know how to use these tools. So as a animation artist, you're going to be working instead of two to like 4 5 projects at once. Or B, if you don't know how to use these tools, it's the most cliche statement, but you are sort of out of a job in some
Yeah.
sense,
Yeah.
and I don't really see that as a bad thing. It's
Hmm.
almost like there's an evolution or like a reset happening in the industry.
Hmm.
And this is specifically when it comes to the technical production of a movie or a show.
Yeah.
When it comes to, like, if we had to move from animation to, let's say, script writing and screenplay writing and even performances, yeah, then it gets a little tricky because, yeah, AI will, like, these large models will only work on the data that they have, and whatever all the writers of the world have written so far, whether it's authors of books or screenwriters, it's going to learn and use data off of that. It's going to imitate
Yeah.
it. Again, that's exactly what Ben Affleck said, and I completely
Yeah.
agree with him. uh, it might give you like a half baked, half decent version of something which Netflix could put out. It'll get decent numbers because, yeah, you might just watch it, on a lazy Tuesday, passive watching sort of a material. It's gonna add to the noise, but it won't be like, prime quality art out there.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you'll need a good director. You'll need a good script writer, screenplay writer, and for, even for AI movies, that's what my take is on things. And it's
Yeah,
gonna, like, after all of this sort of frenzy, it's gonna, I think, settle to that. Now
yeah,
I think a lot of production companies are sort of like experimenting. Okay, maybe we can use like AI generated image or stills here. Maybe we can use AI generated voice, AI generated performances, all of
mm,
that. And
mm,
then they'll realize what's clicking with the audience, what's not.
yeah.
But yeah,
I mean, no studio ever said that we won't use Final Cut Pro. We love cutting our movies, right? That went through. So AI is just going to be another part of that. So, but my perspective also just comes from writing. Is that if you're worried that a machine is going to replace you as a writer, then you're probably not the best writer, and you have to confront that. Because even if you want to generate an amazing script, you have to have so many references inside you with respect to different styles of writing, right? And that's going to really deliver something. If I look at, suppose my lens as a filmmaker today, I'm in my room just with one camera, right? And I want to make a film, and I want to convince a studio to make a film. How do I, and no one has the time to read a script. That's what usually is. That's why a lot of studios focus on narrations. But nowadays, even getting a narration in is difficult. So you want to put your visual out there. You want to put that, I want to shoot it like this, with this color palette, with these actors, with this costume, and I want to light it this way. I can generate at least 30 seconds of what I want to shoot and show it to someone. And that's something that's really important to me as someone who wants to make films. And that's enabling me without, putting money on a short film, managing a crew, telling them what I need. I just want to make a film,
yeah,
right?
you might just onboard a few decent production houses, indie production houses, if you were to make a short movie, because by pitching them AI, they'll be like, जितने कम पैसे में तुमको बन रहा है, why
Yeah,
wouldn't you? And
yeah,
and that's what producers are looking at. Like,
yeah,
they are right now in this very strong experiment phase because they're just looking at the most optimal way to make a movie. If
yeah.
it's and VFX CGI is a big, like, cash sucker, right? So if that can be cut down to half or one third,
Mm,
they will do it.
yeah,
Then they'll, of course, if let's say it works, it doesn't works, is like very A/B testing situation. They'll put more focus on writing. They'll put more focus on who's directing, the cast, all of that.
yeah,
But yeah, I the effects industry in movies is gonna definitely shift a lot, because overnight Google has come out with the VO3,
yeah,
whatever, VO3, right? That model, even with Nano Banana. And I put out very crude prompts on Nano Banana yesterday, and it generated pretty decent looking images.
yeah,
um I think there was one prompt that I put out which just said, uh it's a scene in a spaceship, inside a spaceship. There's a captain. Along with her, there are her four crew members. They are navigating through an asteroid belt in Jupiter. Samne black hole hai. They look a little concerned, but they look determined and resilient that they're gonna make through.
yeah.
Just generate an image, and ethnicity, race, up to you. You decide. And we'll share that as well.
Mm,
The image, I'll share it with you. It looked pretty decent. So if around that you create a decent story, with decent character building, with decent voice acting as well,
yeah,
whether AI or not AI, we'll talk about voice acting too. I'll give it a shot.
yeah,
Uh, Hopefully it doesn't add to the noise, but yeah, if it's on merit, then yeah, it
yeah.
it it will be considered um as one of the better pieces to come out of AI gen. And that judgment and that fear will kind of go away. It's all
Yeah.
about delivering results. Yeah.
uh, a friend of mine had toyed with the Google video model, which is that he wrote a scene which says that what if GTA Vice City was directed by Scorsese? And it was a short clip of one of the scenes. We'll actually link it
I'm sorry, Tommy. This is Vice City. This is business.
there. It was pretty good. But I think that we're also overestimating with respect to what AI can do right now, which is that there is making a movie is a huge task, and there are so many things involved. Like we think that just a director makes a movie, but there is a second unit, there's a third unit. Many a times, like a lot of people are shooting multiple things at the same time. So I think AI can be involved in some processes at the moment, like in the Brutalist, like they wanted to correct the accent a little bit, they did that. Of course, that got a lot of flack. And if you want to maybe collect the color, can work, but a whole movie, and the kind of memory it needs to have to register amount of detail, I don't think we're there at all. If I write a script
It's so
with AI.
subjective, right? Yeah,
Mhm.
and it's so subjective because with The Brutalist, I would not agree about using AI to correct someone's accent. It's
Hmm.
almost like you're perfecting it too much, where the humanness is kind of being eliminated out of it. You
Hmm.
know, it's
But did
almost a
you notice
question
it?
of uh no, I didn't notice it. But I don't speak Hungarian. If let's say someone were to over perfect or perfect Hindi in a movie,
Right.
I'd be like, do we speak perfect Hindi in a is there a perfect accent? Is there a definition of that even, right?
Hmm.
Uh, I was like, was that even necessary to do that in the first place?
Hmm.
Guess the intention was to make him sound more authentic, but I'm like, ज़रूरत क्या है? And again, I think it was done to experiment and see whether how we would react to it. It was almost like a tester, so
Yeah.
that in the future, if they need to do that, let's say the actor is not available for voiceover, they'll just if contract mein likha hai, they can use his voice likeness. They'll just do that on the back end in post.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
so it's
I
all
think
about the intention. Yeah, it's in the intentionality of using
the
AI, I suppose.
internationality.
The internationality.
But yeah, I think that a lot of like with respect to whatever litigation cases have been fought for with artists and the studio so far have just been that you can't use my likeness and my personality to do something, even though you've signed me on, and we need to add those contractual obligations so that you don't use anything anywhere, right? I still want to have some creative control over my output, and that's totally fine. But after a certain point of time, like if you're committed to a film, even if there was no AI, the director does have a final call, and that call is going to be taken. Even pre-AI it was being taken. Like if you look at a filmmaker like Terrence Malick, he was famous for cutting off whole parts of actors. I remember Adrian Brody, there was this movie called Thin Red Line, and Adrian Brody was supposed to have a huge part in it. He went for the premiere and he realized he didn't have a part, and that whole thing was chucked off.
It's less about subtracting and more about adding and misusing. So these contracts are insidious, okay? They're slimy. So if you sign without reading where and with AI it becomes even tricky. They can use your voice, let's say, in if it's a contract which says the production house owns your likeness, then
Hmm.
they'll use it in any project of theirs across any subject matter. Now let's say you haven't signed on to a certain script or a movie because of the subject matter, you don't align with it, let's say politically,
Hmm.
but then they'll use your likeness, voice, or otherwise in that. It becomes a whole other problem where it seems like you're affiliating or aligning with a certain idea. And whether we like it or not, but when a cast joins a movie and that movie or a piece of work has a very strong idea attached to it, right? You end up it becomes very parasocial where you end up associating that actor to that particular idea also sometimes, right? Like with Oppenheimer, like you're like, Killian Murphy is not going to be pro war after doing Oppenheimer. Or even if he is, and if it comes out, you'll be like, "Arey yaar, ye kya ye to matlab hak diya," you know? So it distorts our view of these people and of the experience that we had of watching that movie in that time as well.
Hmm.
It's again, it's like a lot of
So it's about
layers
the
to it, but
actor's brand identity gets diluted a little bit if you use their likeness somewhere else.
I definitely feel like for actors, it's more of that.
Hmm.
For writers, it was more about like a lat on their, you know, pair, pet pe lat mardi sort of thing. It
Paid
was their
Pilata.
bread and butter.
Yeah.
Let's say you've worked with a production house over 2-3 movies, so they have enough context on
Yeah.
what you've written. If they use that as context to render a completely new script in your voice, in your tone, but they don't pay you, and that was the problem in the
Yeah.
that was
Yeah.
the whole reason of the strike. They're going to use your likeness, they might not pay you for it. So
Yeah.
while brand and identity and all of that definitely matters, it's, are you getting a paycheck at the end of the day?
Yeah. Yeah.
Otherwise this would not have been such a big deal, and it
Yeah.
became a union thing because of that also.
Yeah. No, and I understand the sentiment because it's not like you're making Casablanca every day. वैसे भी कचरा बना रहे हो कचरा के लिए
Yeah.
तो कुछ paycheck मिल जाए तो
Writers
at least the
anyway, yeah,
yeah
writers get like shit, like they don't get paid anything.
yeah
Even like
I'm
in the biggest movies, it's like a writer's room, you have like 5-7 different people, they
yeah
get paid okay.
yeah
After AI सबकी फट गई because of this, like we're already not getting good money. Now what's going to happen with AI? Just like it's going to be half of that or nothing. Like where do we stand, where do we go?
yeah most of the
So
ads also
yeah.
these days are like especially the image work that I see it's very obvious that it's AI generated. So I think short
Yeah.
form writing and short form content is going to be a lot of AI slop. And I don't think that's going to change because it's the cheaper decision to make. But I think that, I don't know, it's still, I believe in the thing that this presents an opportunity for people to just go back to why they wanted to be creative people. And that's the more important question to ask in this is that, okay, the revenues have moved a different way, but there's still work to be done.
Do you think we're going to live in a world where, let's say, Generation Alpha, when they're grown up, they there's like a novelty around a movie or a show that's completely human made? Do you think we're
Absolutely.
going to reach? Yeah, even I'm afraid of like that's going to be such a
Absolutely.
different world, because it's almost like the generation that grew up on a phone then moved to a mobile.
Yeah.
I don't know, it's like this like transition in technology that we are as a
Yeah.
generation also facing. So the one coming next, for them it's going to be normal. I think a lot of kids are now just growing up on AI videos, right? Like
Yeah.
little kids
Yeah.
when they watch that, the Coco Melon stuff, uh things similar to that are like mostly AI.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if it's a, like that would be a marketing angle, like this movie has no AI.
Yeah, I
you
think
know
it already can sell if you're saying that we don't use AI. It's just like we shoot on film.
mm,
It's just another version of that. That there's no digitalized
mm.
stuff, and yeah, I can see that happening in a couple of years. I don't think Gen Alpha ka wait bhi karna chahiye. It's going to happen now. Because like if I just think about it, like there's going to be a novelty associated with having a human model because so many models are now like especially for brand work are AI generated. So if the top 10, 15 models, all the revenue that was cut from the flap is going to flow to them. And it's going to be like, okay, this model is being used for this brand. That means there's a big deal. That means there's a big announcement. And this is a move that we all need to pay attention to. Because otherwise, there's no other way to divert attention. Now, it's like if I look at the ads that come on my reels, I can't differentiate from any one of them. And I think that's also going to reach a saturation point where people are going to realize that they're not getting influenced by the content. And that was the key thing. It's not like now AI is enabling that we produce a lot of content. So like जो भी है बन रहा है, but अभी बन गया. And उसके बाद how do you engage? And that engagement is only going to come when you have a creative brain. And that's not going to.
I totally agree. I think there's going to be newfound appreciation for good content, a good story,
Yeah, yeah,
a good actor as well, for that matter, right?
yeah.
Yeah, and I think there are already a couple of platforms doing the rounds in like tech
Yeah, Glenn Powell is
circles where
already AI generated, I think.
In even in platforms today, like I was talking about how like there are a few platforms that are doing the rounds. Everyone's like, oh, the video rendition and is this pretty solid, pretty good. I think there's one platform called Curious Refugee. There's one more that I saw which is called Kling.ai. And no, we are not getting paid to say any of this. We just did like some
We
research. I
hope to
spoke to a
get
couple
paid
of,
eventually.
yes, please pay us.
Please pay us.
But yeah, like these two platforms are being used quite a bit by VFX artists itself, and even short filmmakers. So I actually I'm super excited about what AI will do in the whole short film side of things. There's going to be a lot of interesting things coming out, a lot of interesting fun stories, and even a show like Love, Death, Robots or Black Mirror. I wouldn't be averse if they used AI because they're like Love, Death, Robots ka stories are so solid. If they, let's say, used AI to put out the episode, it might, I mean, of course, it's gonna slow down the timeline, and I don't think it's gonna dilute the storytelling or the quality of it. It might just be an interesting experiment to see how that particular audience reacts to it, because that is the TG also for AI. They'll watch a lot, like they'll be more receptive to it rather than someone like you or me who are more on the cinephile indie side of things, like मैं कुरोसावा देखती हूँ, मैं इतना नहीं देखूंगी AI generated stuff, but I might appreciate it for a Love, Death, Robots kind of a show because it's very on brand for them.
Yeah, yeah. The point that you raised about counterculture, what scares me, especially when you're looking at a market like India's, counterculture really depends and works if it's in like a market where it's accepted. Like in the US, counterculture is a big thing, like from the 60s and the 70s. There's a proper audience from California, Texas, Austin, all of these places where it's a part of the zeitgeist. Whereas in India, counterculture is sort of sidelined, like the mainstream and the moneyed aspects of things really take over, and you don't get to have too many spaces for them. So, like recently, there was a film that was announced which was, I think, completely made in AI, and it was by the head of this huge agency, talent agency. And of course, Anurag Kashyap put out a post saying that, look, this is a start of a thing that can really eradicate a lot of views and screens from our audiences, which is more counterculture, which is low budget, and people looking for new things, new ideas, etc. And it's like another phase of competition for them, right? So I understand that sentiment as well because we are operating in a very traditional market, I think.
Very traditional. I think all the trends and all the culture or counterculture things, they sort of come to India a year later, like one cycle later. Like how fast fashion also, all the trends and the clothes come here after it's done and dusted in
Yeah,
Europe.
some people still don't have clothes, but yeah.
Yeah, so even with a lot of these aspects, it we don't really have such a strong counterculture culture.
बिजली नहीं आया बट क्रिप्टो वॉलेट आ गया अपने
We do chase money, we do chase clout, we don't chase ideas as often or as much.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. So
Interesting
like
ideas at least. We don't chase curiosity as much either.
yeah, so it's going to
So
enable a lot of project managers to do things for big
do you
companies.
think that's why also AI slop in India is such a big thing? Like I see my parents buying some video online which is AI generated and they won't realize that it is.
Yeah,
Or like just pure AI slop also, like those cat videos with the meow meow
yeah.
meow background. Um, yeah,
सी बुड्ढों के
I
पास
do
बहुत टाइम
feel
है यहाँ पे, वो एक बहुत बड़ा प्रॉब्लम है. So like they will buy anything. Like if they can buy like Sasural Simar ka, so this is like nothing. Yeah. The Sasural Simar ka, she turned into a fly in one of the seasons. And one of the
yeah.
episodes and one of the episodes was her figuring out her as a fly around the kitchen or something like that. So Yeah, I think there is huge scope for all the AI in this market, and I think a lot of people
That
are going to
fly
have.
next time will be AI generated.
Yeah, yeah. I think this podcast can also be AI generated. There are two flies talking, something like.
Man, oh God, I'm scared of what Ekta Kapoor will do with AI and her TV shows now. Just you've put that thought in my head.
Well, we have to prepare for the worst. In
Yes,
any
and the best.
technology, I don't know. Like I thought of like when streaming came in, we had like a few good shows, and then bhul gaya na sab log. They're like, "Ki now we'll just get back to whatever
Mm.
we know," and I think that's just going to be like it's going to enable a
So
lot of
you're
people
saying our
building
brain,
projects.
you think our brain craves garbage?
Um, Not my brain, but I know a lot of people who just want to disassociate from traffic, pollution, noise, someone shouting at them, or whatever. Like the amount of people that you're surrounded by
Reality.
every day. Yeah, 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 yeah. So there are too many triggers in India, especially that you want to
Yeah.
escape from. So even if it's like a fly around the kitchen, I'll buy it, I think.
Well, that's a good point to end the conversation on.
Fantastic. I think
AI
this is gonna,
generated fly in Sasural Simarka. Watch
yeah.
this space for more.
Basic idea of artificial intelligence is concerned, I think if the choice is between natural stupidity and artificial intelligence, I would prefer artificial intelligence.